Hi, so there was a little bit of drama today. Bit of drama. What has happened? Well, Ask Mr. Robot did a blog post about the toxicity of class discords. Now, there's been a whole hoo-ha about this on Twitter. Now, what I want to do really in this vlog is talk about two things. There are other side issues as well, but that would be a topic for another video. And I want to talk about, first of all, is the attack on class discords fair? To what extent is it fair? To what extent is it not? What are the ulterior motives? And then another little bit about Ask Mr. Robot's tactics from the past year or so. It's been a bit disappointing, I have to say. So I'm going to talk about that at the end. I'll try and remember to put a timestamp in. If I forget, sorry, someone remind me in the comments below and I'll stick one in. And this, by the way, I'm going to sort of vlog direct to camera, as I tend to do now. I've been writing about this because I saw this all exploding in little breaks I've had at work, and I was writing things down, sort of as a script, but I don't want to do it as a script. I just want to sort of talk to camera here. So, but I have got a blog, effectively. Loads of people writing blogs about it because, of course, it was a topic to talk about in depth. And I thought, well, I'll be no different then. I'll jump on myself. Now, it was written just as my notes for this. Initially, I just fleshed it out. So don't come back at me going, oh, it seems to be grammatically quite poor. I didn't proofread it. It's not intended as a blog. But I've put the link in the description below. I've also obviously put a link to the offended article in the description below, as well as links to a couple of other things that people have said on the subject as well. So, first of all, if you've read that blog through from Mr. Robot, one thing they do is they focus on hate speech. They're saying there's a lot of hate speech goes on in these discords. And the problem is that the way their data's been acquired is fundamentally flawed. At first, when I was looking at it, it had a graphic about, oh, this is how many times KYS is used in a day. Kill yourself, And I was thinking, to ascribe that as hate speech is a bit weird. Like, for example, if someone's having a heated argument and it's proper getting really passionate and someone just says KYS, you could argue that's hate speech. I mean, what that really is someone spitting their dummy out, chucking their toys out the pram. But, you can say that's hate speech, that someone is just run out of argument, and they're just blowing up. Fair enough, that's not very nice. But equally, if someone is saying, oh, I'm enjoying my ham and pineapple on pizza, and someone says KYS, that's clearly a joke. That's just a little bit of very light banter. And that everyone's in on as well. Because that's another thing. Who you say it to matters. How does something like this distinguish, first of all, between the vitriolic meaning of it and just as a light joke? How does it distinguish between a couple of people who know each other well, ribbing each other? Doesn't, does it at all? But it wasn't as simple as that, because there's me imagining, oh, they've got something that can trawl through the class discords automatically and pick out keywords. That immediately is a little bit dodgy, because straight away you're thinking, okay, so they're looking for key terms, aren't they? And that straight away produces a little bit of bias. And whenever you're looking at statistics, you always have to be, as the statistician, aware of unintentional bias. And as the audience, you have to be aware of intentional bias, particularly if there's a motivation for attacking class discords by the author. Now, the other part of it is, so it's not as simple as that, because really what was happening is it wasn't something just trawling through it. It was actual people apparently just noting down over a certain amount of time, as far as I can tell. The details about how this data was collected also seems to be a little bit sketchy. But if that's the case, it's not simply that the conclusions have been wrong, and it's not simply that, the data has been acquired wrong. The data has just basically been made up, if that's the case. But anyway, I am all for statistics, by the way. Investigating things with statistics, absolutely. I have a very scientific background, but you do have to be aware of bias. You have to be aware as well. In a scientific study, you have a hypothesis. So the hypothesis presented here. Your experiment, your collection of data, has to allow you to test that hypothesis. If there are alternative explanations for results, then it's not valid. It's simple as that. Now, that is not to say there is no toxic behaviour on Discord. Welcome to the internet. And it could be argued that there is potentially more toxic behaviour on a Discord than there is on a well-moderated forum. The reason being, a couple of reasons. First of all, the ease of access and the speed of which conversations can happen on Discord. They're very rapid. Forums a bit longer because not only have you got to type it out, you've got to, the posting, it usually takes a little bit longer as well. But also, on a forum post, you've got different topics. So you want to ask a question or talk about something. You create a new post and you put that line in. And then if someone's not interested in it or they think it's a question that's, not of great interest, they'll just quietly they won't answer it. They'll just leave it alone. And that topic will just, if it's unpopular, just drift down and disappear off the end of the page. Boo-hoo for the author, but, it's not causing any trouble. Whereas on Discord, there might be a conversation going on and you're typing your question and it intercuts that conversation. It's very much in your face. Whereas on a forum, if you're having a discussion with someone or a few people, it tends to be confined within the same post. They're not even aware of other posts that are going on because it's a different topic. So inherently, there's a little bit of that on Discord. Now, of course, it can also be said that different class Discords will have different amounts of this so-called toxic behaviour. I have to say, I am told, I don't believe it in a way, the Paladin Discord can be a little bit naughty, apparently. Okay, I've certainly seen a little bit of behaviour. But at the same time, that's because each of these class Discords is run by people who will have a different idea about where the balance lies between freedom of speech and responsibility of speech. So you might have some class Discords. I know Hammer of Wrath, the Paladin Discourse, generally takes the view of, well, we're pretty much into freedom of speech here. So you generally only get banned if you are persistently dickish. If you keep on at something, all right, then you're going to get banned. Whereas in other Discords, they tend to take a firmer line. But then it could be argued that maybe there's an argument of also banning people for just saying something that goes against the grain, as opposed to saying it in toxic terms. I don't know. But there's different balances in there. So to say that there's no toxic behaviour in there would be a lie. There is in some of them. Maybe in some of them it's not at all. Okay. So then we come on to the idea of, okay, forums and Discord as a place to get your questions answered. So you've got class-specific questions, you'd like them answered, forums or Discord. Now, again, this is billed as an either-or. You should either choose Discord or forums. Well, that's a nonsense. There's nothing to stop you using Discord as well as visiting various forums as well, okay, and asking your questions in all of those various formats. But they are very different, and people shouldn't see one as a replacement for the other. They both have their pros and cons, and if you understand that, you'll see what each one is best for. So, I think they're quite complementary. So let's say you ask a question in a forum. How can that be different? Well, in a forum, of course, as I've said before, you can make your own topic. It's not going to intercut with someone else's discussion. Entirely new topic. You can also make it quite detailed, so maybe it's not a simple question. Maybe you want to write some background to it to explain yourself, maybe put some links into various things, all that side of it. And then it also means someone responding can do similar. They can put nice detailed answers in. It's not really how things are encouraged on Discord. Discord is a much snappier one, a bit more like Twitter, shorter, snappier responses and questions, things like that. So there's something distinctly different there. Forums very much more a scope for shorter essays, for example, which might serve some people better. That might be better for some people. But on a forum, you can't always be sure that the information is accurate. That is a big issue because, sure, there are people on Discord who can also give inaccurate answers, but they're likely to be highlighted pretty quickly. In particular, the class Discords which have different ranks. So there's on some, not all, but on some of the class Discords, there's a particular rank of player that's designated as someone who knows what they're talking about. So if they provide an answer, then that's pretty reliable. If someone else does, well, it might be. But if, usually you find on Discord, if someone gives an inaccurate answer, that it's leapt upon fairly quickly. And at some point you would hope that someone with that designation will be able to answer it and you get a definitive source, because that's the key thing. Senior theory crafters and the senior players of the specs are predominantly found on class discords rather than forums. Of course, there are some that don't really want to mess about with either because of the time involved. But the other thing is, even when you get a senior theory crafter, say, on a forum, it doesn't mean they're going to read through every post. So again, you could ask a question, get it answered by someone who gives you the wrong information. And even if there is a theory crafter who bounces about on that forum, they may never see it because it's a simple question from their point of view. They're not going to go in there to check that someone hasn't given you the wrong information. They'll just go, oh, someone will have answered that, and leave it at that. So whereas on Discord, you can be sure you're going to get accurate information. It may not be the answer you want. Now, how should Discord work? So what should the process be? Because I know a lot of people find, especially if they're new, they go onto a Discord and they ask a question, then suddenly get shouted down like, oh my God. And then there's this perception, oh my God, it's so toxic. No, it's not. You just asked in a very bad way. You did the equivalent, all right? Imagine this in real life. So you've got a group of people all having a discussion around a table in the pub, right? And you go over to them and just interrupt. Someone's talking, you interrupt us and you ask your question. How do you think they're going to react to that? You're going to get a pint in the face, okay? So it's the same thing here. So what you do is you first of all think to yourself, okay, what is the purpose of a Discord? The purpose of Discord is not necessarily just a Q&A. It's not an extension of Blizzard customer support. It's a place to discuss the spec, to chat about the spec, to explain why pineapple belongs on a pizza. That's what it's for. Of course you can ask questions. There are questions to answer. But go about it in the right way. First of all, some of the class Discords, the Paladin one particularly I know, has an FAQ section. Because there are a lot of common questions. Imagine what it's like if you're on that Discord quite a lot of the day. All right? And you see the same question being asked over and over and over and over again. And you see it day after day, after day after day, month after month. Aren't you going to get a little bit tired? Would you be a little bit irritable? Of course you would. Okay? Check the FAQ. If there isn't an FAQ channel, check the pins. All right? If the pins are just a whole load of memes, at that point, okay, you are now able to answer your question. If someone snaps at you, well, that's not your fault because actually the information isn't easy to find on that Discord. Okay? If you've checked the FAQ, you've checked the pins in that channel, go ahead and ask your question. But even then, try and ask it in the right way. It's usually a good idea to say, look, hi guys, especially if you're new to it. Hi guys, look, I've checked the FAQ, I've checked the pins, and I can't actually find why it is that gnomes can't be paladins. To which someone is then likely to go, okay, well, you've checked all that, so the answer isn't obvious. I'll explain. There are a lot of reasons why gnomes shouldn't be paladins, both philosophical as well as practical. You'll find that Thete has done a video on why gnomes shouldn't be any class at all, which you can find on his YouTube channel. Okay? Brilliant. And that's all it needs to be most of the time. That's all it needs to be. Now, sometimes the toxic behaviour works both ways. Sometimes you get someone coming on, asking a question, and then getting stroppy because they don't like the response. Either they don't like the answer or they don't get an answer at all, and they get quite toxic themselves. Again, thinking it's a help desk, which it's not. So, if you don't like the answer, one common reason for that is people quite often come on and they'll say something like, oh, which is better, this set of braces or this set of braces? And then they get the answer, well, you need to sim it. Well, I'm sorry, that's the answer. It's not telling you what you want. I mean, someone could just lie to you. I'm sure if you go on a forum, someone will just say, oh, I'll pick those ones. It's a bit like people asking for stat weights. What's our class of stat weights? They're personal to you. No such thing. You know, so, but people just want the easy answer. Well, just, okay, well, haste and mastery, just go, go, go. And they're happy as Larry with that. But it's not necessarily true. Might be wrong. Okay? Personal to you. So someone's saying, well, you need to sim it. Trying to be helpful. Now, if you want to follow up by saying, what's the easiest way to sim it? Okay, then they will say, well, use raid bots. That's really quick and easy. And there you go. There you've got your answer. But it is a bit like, some people just get stroppy with it. It's a little bit like, I've said, going onto forums, geography forums, and asking, what's the capital of France? And then coming away from them and moaning that people keep telling me it's Paris. That's not the answer I want. Well, sorry, if that's the answer to your question, that's the answer to your question. Okay? And it's really as simple as that. I mean, if you want to ask something more like, you know, why would this trinket be better than this trinket in this situation? Well, that's got more scope to it and stuff like that. But if it's simply, which is better, this thing or this thing, there's easy ways to do that, and that's not the forum for it. So don't be surprised if you get the answer similar. Sometimes you don't get an answer at all. Well, that might be that the answer to your question, the people that are there at the time don't feel comfortable giving an answer about it. So that's just the way it is. Leave it there for a bit. Come back after a few hours. Maybe someone will have pinged you. Because sometimes I have to admit, I will see a question in a Discord channel and I'll answer it. And then I'll notice that actually the question was asked half an hour before or something like that. Ping someone into it. So if they come back, they'll see that they've got an answer to it. Now, if that happens and you don't get pinged in after a few hours, then ask it again. I mean, you're not asking it every few minutes. Every few hours is okay. Try and get an answer. Sometimes it is also possible that there are people on that Discord who are okay with you direct messaging them. But do check that first. Don't assume. Right? For example, don't just direct message a mod. They're not a help desk. It's not their job to do that. Some of them will be okay with it and some of them won't. Okay, so just check. You could even ask in the Discord if you're new to it. Hi guys, I've got a bit of a question, but it's a bit lengthy. Is there anyone that you know is okay with me just whispering them the question and they'll get back to me? That sort of thing might work as well. Now, the other thing is, if you're going onto a class Discord because you're very new at that spec, maybe it's an alt, or maybe you've just started playing the game, or maybe you've been playing it for a while, but very casually, and you want to start playing a bit more seriously. So you're a bit of a novice on that class and spec, and you want some general information, but you sort of know your questions are a bit basic. It's very likely to be the case that there would be a guide out there that will answer all those basic questions as well. Again, people who are discussing more advanced things about the class and spec don't necessarily want to be bombarded with simple questions. And so this is always fraught with danger, of course, going to find a guide. Because, plenty of guides out there, not many are accurate. In fact, some of them will steer you very wrong. Some will steer you a little bit wrong, and it's not too bad. Some very wrong. Now, how do you find out? Well, in the old days, it was a bit difficult. Because a popular guide is not necessarily a good one. It can be popular just because it's better marketed. Or it might be produced by someone who's popular for a different reason, and they just do this as a sideline, and it can be a load of rubbish. But again, this is where class Discords benefit, because as I say, predominantly you get where you have senior theory crafters and senior players of the spec involved in any form of community, it tends to be the class Discords. That tends to be the one of choice. So they will be able to endorse ones that are suitable. So then you could go and read or watch that. And then if you have any other questions, then again, you can go through the process and ask your question then. But do it in the right way. As I say, don't go butting in, disturbing people with questions that just get asked all the time. Because if you have a very basic question, it's very likely so did a lot of other people, and a lot of other people asked it. And of course, the people are going to be irritable. Now, finally, so it has to be said that some class Discords are very differently organized to others. All right. I mean, some of them don't have an FAQ, for example. So I can sort of understand why if you play a main of one class that has a very limited Discord number of channels or anything like that, and the way to find out your answer is just to blurt it out, and you go to another one that's more organized and got FAQs and stuff like that, then it can be a bit of a culture shock. But that's why I say, see the layout of the LAN. Don't assume that a class Discord you're going to if you're out works the same as the one for your main. It may not at all. In fact, it probably won't. They all work very differently. And remember that the class Discords were set up by individuals with their own ideas about what's likely to benefit the community. As I said before, it's not. None of them were set up to be Blizzard's customer support at all. Now, on the subject of the blogs itself and Ask Mr. Robot's blog. Now, I have to say that I am disappointed. I am. There have been a number of people that have quickly pointed out the flaws in both the data and the conclusions on these. All right, and as I say, I've posted a few up there. Now, I noted one began their blog by saying, well, I'm not a mathematician. Well, I am. I am a scientist. I'm a physicist who trained at a good university taught by people with serious global clout in their field of expertise. All right? You know, the corridors I walked are also trodden by Nobel Prize winners. I would never have got away at any stage of my degree with sloppy data collection or analysis. I was screwed. All of my data, when I gathered it and processed it and analysed it and reported it, was scrutinised by people who know their stuff. And you didn't get away with anything. Nothing. I once actually did try to bluff something, because I remember going in to do a report and I looked at some calculation. I knew it was wrong. I just very quickly scanned it and inherently knew it was wrong. I knew I'd cocked something up, but I wasn't sure how, and I wasn't able to check it in time. So I just thought, oh, damn it. And I just went with it. Straight away worked it out. Like, no, that's wrong. You don't put anything past them. And this is very slow. The conclusions are pretty poor. Now, the other thing is this. So let's look at it super objectively and go, okay, so what they're trying to do is trying to say that class discords are toxic. And then they come up with all the, percentages of messages that are so-called toxic. But then you look at it and you see, actually, what they've done is they've lumped together first of all, what they call toxic comments. Remember what I said before. What they were classing as toxic comments are not always toxic. In fact, most of the time won't be. They'll just be jokes. Okay? And I don't mean jokes in the way that actually can offend, but that are clearly not. But it doesn't matter about that. So let's say you take all these terms, right? They've put it together with off-topic. Okay? So when they talk about so many comments like hate speech, they're including in that someone talking about the football results. All right? Or someone talking about what type of pizza they like. How is that hate speech? It's not. It's not. You couldn't actually be that dumb unless you were deliberately trying to mislead the audience. And that alone, just that one thing, shows that that's what they're trying to do. And here is the issue, and it's not the first time this has happened as well. I remember, I don't like to be this negative, by the way. The thing is, I was really excited about the way Ask Mr. Robot were gearing up for Legion. They were working on way before Legion came out, for example, a new simulator, which looked fantastic. It was exactly what we've got with raid bots, with some flashier bits, in that the problem with Simulation Craft, the usual reason why we're saying to sim it, people go, is because Simulation Craft isn't all that user-friendly sometimes. It depends what you want to do with it. For some things, it's not that user-friendly. I mean, I've tried creating guides to show you how to do some basic bits, but the fact of the matter is, it's fiddly at best. When you get used to it, it's fiddly. Before you get used to it, it's horrendous. So, the Ask Mr. Robot Simulator, so super easy to use, brilliant, loads of great tools in it, absolutely fantastic. I was so excited for it. Problem wasn't very accurate. I remember at the start of Legion intending, when it went live, when the simulator went live for Legion, intending to do a video going, okay, you can use it to do this and this and that, and get really excited. But I tried it out and it wasn't accurate. So I thought, I'll leave it a bit, let them sort it out. And in the meantime, I just did videos on showing you how to sim yourself with Simulation Craft. But it never really got fixed. And I remember them bringing out a blog, again, arguing for how their simulator was more accurate than using SimCraft. Again, attacking what they saw as a competitor. Even though that competitor is done by people for free. They're giving up their own time. These are experts in their class and spec, giving up their time for free. But they saw them as a competitor. And so they attacked it. And you look through this blog, and someone asked me to comment on it. So I thought, okay, well, I'll look through this. And I said, well, there's these flaws in the logic. And, one of them got back to me from Ask Mr. Robot. And I said, look, the fact is wrong. Like, there was something I knew that was wrong at the time. There was, for example, for the Ret, one of the tier set bonuses was just wrong. It was a tier set bonus that was in the PTR that never made it to live. Well, at the point we were doing this, we're well into live. It was changed a couple of months before and still hadn't been updated. And this is the issue. It's not that they're lazy. You're talking about a small number of guys, people who could comfortably work in this room, right? Trying to do all these specs for the simulator, and that's only part of what they do. It's not feasible. You need experts to look it over. Now, I went to the Ret Discord channel, went to the Templar chat, and went, look, guys, this is clearly wrong in there. What do you think? Within 10 minutes, they'd basically identified multiple errors with the APL, okay, for the Ret Paladin one. And, fed that back, and they went, oh, yeah, okay. They saw them, identified them at that point. I thought, okay, we'll fix them. But the problem is that's missing the point entirely. The fact of the matter is these problems, these errors, which have been in all the way through Legion, this was not producing accurate results at all. And the errors were identified by experts within a few minutes. So, and I think to myself, well, I was trying to say to them, what you need is you need to encourage these guys to look through your stuff and maybe you'll be able to produce a really good resource. And their response was, well, they should post these things on our forums. Like, no, why should they do that? They're giving up their time as it is. Why should they do that? You should engage with them. You should, these people give up a lot of time and they do it for free. So many people unpick World of Warcraft for free and they're happy to share. They're even happy to share their time with people who do make money from it. Okay? And the reason that, look, for example, take Bay, for example, on Final Boss, he does his talks and he talks to people from Method or Exhaustus when they've got their world first. He talks to experts on different classes and specs for his discussion topics on those. He gets a lot of people giving up the time for free. Yeah, he makes his living from it. But your people are happy to do that because he engages with the community. He doesn't attack the community. And Ask Mr. Robot, I don't like to criticise, and this is the first time I've really gone like this, but it's because they're quite nice people. They come across as really nice people and well-intentioned. And they're trying, the tools they're coming out with, they're trying to do good. That's what I mean. It's not like the WoW Progress score system, which you understand why they do it, but it's not a good thing for the community. The stuff Ask Mr. Robot trying to do would be really good for the community, but it's just wrong. It's not right. And they're charging for it as well, which just adds another layer to it. But, they need to make their living. And that's another thing. You sort of understand when people have to make their living from stuff like this, obviously you're encouraged to, exhibit a strong streak of self-publicity. You need to try and persuade other people that your stuff is the best. Even when it's not, which is not a nice way of looking at it. But, your living depends on it. But there is a thing to do. When it's not the best, what you should be doing is raising your own bar. Now, people will see, I'm sure many of you will have seen this in life as well, because this isn't just in World of Warcraft communities. You see this everywhere. You see it in your workplace. You see it everywhere. There are two types of people who have an ambition. People who have a particular ambition. There's two ways in which people will generally try and achieve it. One way is by standing out, by being better than the people around them. They will just make themselves better and stand out. Other people either don't have the confidence to do that or know they don't have the talent to do that or can't be asked to do that. So what they do to stand out instead of rising higher, they just drag people around them down. And this is what's happening here. They, for the past year or so, have been attacking lots of what they see as competitors. So they were attacking Simulation Craft because they had a simulator that they wanted to charge for. Now they're attacking Class Discords because they want them to be the people to go to. Well, it's like, well, who are you going to choose? You've got on Class Discords the people who do the theory crafting, who know that class and spec inside out. A small number of whom, by the way, you may not who know who they are, but a small number of whom are in direct contact with Blizzard, discuss things with the Blizzard character development team. These are people that Blizzard accept as experts. All right. And you've also got the senior proponents of those classes, the ones who are in the top guilds and kicking it out on the meters, if that's what you're interested in, getting the high logs. These are the guys who are found on the class Discords. You're not going to find them on Ask Mr. Robot's resources. Who are you going to pick? Okay. Now, here's the baffling thing. It's not like Ask Mr. Robot are fighting a losing battle, because I would like them to think about their approach. Because they can take one of two approaches. They can keep attacking different community resources. You're ultimately onto a loser, because all that's going to happen is you're just going to get people pointing out step by step. And I wouldn't like to do this, but I'll bet you there's plenty of other people who would. Doing videos or blogs pointing out step by step everything that they're saying is wrong. And that is just going to mean, first of all, you're misleading the people who do come across you. And then when they find out that's just going to breed resentment. Then, you know, you're not going to have any sort of credibility then. I mean, you only have to look at the @AskMrRobot Twitter tag to see what people have been saying about Ask Mr. Robot today. It's not overwhelmingly positive. It's not nice, actually. It's not nice. That's not what you want. On the other hand, you could say, hang on a minute, we've actually got a resource here. If you engage with the community, instead of saying to the community, yeah, we're quite happy to take your expert views, but come here to us and give them to us. No, you go out to there. You go there. Engage with them, and you'll find there's plenty of people quite happy to give their time for you to make sure that your resource is accurate. But you need to engage. Now, which version is going to be the best overall? Of course, it's the second one. And that's what I'd hope they see. I hope that there is enough of a bit of a backlash here for them to stop and think, actually, do you know what? Let's just engage instead of attack the community. Because it's not going to go well. Ultimately, it's not going to go well. You need credibility within the community for doing this sort of job, I think. But anyway, those are my thoughts. I think I've rambled on long enough now. Let me know your comments below. Your comments not only on this debate, but also what are your experiences of the different class discussion discords? What do you think is the purpose of these class discords? Because maybe there's a bit of a misunderstanding here with some people who think it's a place to discuss advanced things about it. Some people who think it's a help desk. How many of you think, what is this class discord even for? If you've enjoyed the video, don't forget to give it a like. If you're the first time here, welcome, hi. Subscribe for future content. And until next time, I'll see you later.